Namaste. Thank you very much for having me over. I think there are a few familiar faces who I've interacted with over the last year in the leadership development program. I've done a few offsites with some people. So when I was asked to deliver this talk, this was quite interesting. I'll start by just saying this, that the topics that were given to me were, how do I unlock a winning mindset in you? Okay. How can I teach you to handle pressure? How can I teach you to drive performance and stay motivated? Okay. How can you develop sustainable growth in the organization and yourselves? How can I make you positive? How can we make critical changes within oneself? Okay. How can we create a culture of innovation and a culture of fitness? How can I help you modify your leadership styles? Okay. How can I teach you to recover from setbacks? How can I teach you to focus? How can I teach you to improve your communication? And that's quite an intense list. Don't you agree? For 30 minutes? Okay. So I'm going to request you to do one thing. Okay. I don't know if you have a piece of paper and pen. It's fine. I'm okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to request if you have a piece of paper and pen. If you don't, you can take out your phone and just open a blank email or anywhere that you're going to write some notes. Okay, so just take that out. Please open to a notes section. Okay. We all need somewhere to start. So we're going to start with a small exercise and we'll take it from there. Whilst you're doing this, my job is pretty much to unlock performance mentally and physically in people. And from someone who's lived almost 4.5 years in an ashram and who has a psychology background, I blend a lot of science and spirituality in my approach to everything. So a lot of the stories that I'm going to tell you today are going to be bringing these two worlds together. So you've got a piece of paper out. I want you to write down 3 things that you love. Just write down 3 things that you love. Okay. It can be a person, it can be something. Just 3 things. Okay, are we done? A few more seconds. Okay, so everyone that's done, I want you to just swap your phone with someone next to you. Just the person right next to you, only because it's an exercise. So just give your phone with that list of 3 things. Just swap phones or paper, whatever you have with someone. Okay, good, super. Now, you better pray that on the 3 things you wrote down that you love, it's not your neighbor's wife's name. Okay, okay. So, how many on the list? You're just going to read the list and I want you to stand up if the first thing on the list is myself or I, stand up. Okay. If the second thing on the list that you're reading for someone is myself, right, or I, stand up. Good. Okay. If the third thing on the list is myself or I, stand up. Good. You're reading someone else's list, so you're not worrying about your list. You're reading someone else's. That's fine. So we got 3 people. Fantastic. So let's look around the room. Okay. Now the reason I did this exercise is because it's a very beautiful exercise. Okay. It teaches us and highlights, isn't it, that, okay, if you can't start by loving yourself, okay, how are you willing to make any change in yourself? If you don't love yourself enough to care, how can you invoke any change? And this is where I like to start with people. There's a reason why You haven't lost that weight you wanted to lose, or you haven't signed up for a course you wanted to do, or you haven't done anything that you wanted to do, because you don't see yourself as a priority. You see everybody else around you as a priority. Okay? And as long as that doesn't change, your growth is going to stop. So the next time someone asks you a question, and this needs to come from within, okay, the first answer is you need to love yourself first. Because when you become strong from within, okay, then you can withstand all the pressure outside. You can develop, you can grow, you can do whatever. And leading on from that point, I was going onto the internet and I found that Bank of Baroda has probably about 6 to 7% growth annually in the organization across various fields. Okay, my question is, how much growth do you have annually? Are you growing at 6 to 7% or more annually? And how are you quantifying that growth? You see, if you're not improving and you're in an organization that's improving, there will come a time when you will become redundant. Am I correct, sir? It's going to happen. So, if you love yourself and you care about yourself enough to grow, okay, then you will do things that makes you a very pertinent part of an organization and you're developing yourself. And today's talk, I'm going to touch on a few stories that highlights the importance of yourself and how you can grow as a person. Because when people ask me, how do you do this with your athletes? Okay, my athlete, if he was in this room and I asked him this question, the first name on the list will be his name. He walks onto the field thinking he's the best person. Everybody needs to do everything for him. Okay? And yes, it has a negative connotation, but he's so invested in his own growth that he's constantly improving. Okay? And that's why it's easy to unlock a winning performance in someone who's invested in themselves. If you're not invested in yourself, how can I make you better? Okay? Because if you look at the list, the things that you love are all around you. So for me to make you better, I need to change those things. Okay? And I can't change all of those things. You can't even change all of those things. So part of my job as a speaker, as a person, is I travel, and I told you I'm a deeply spiritual person. So I travel around the country looking for these Babas and these Maharajas, and I interview them. So I was recently in Benares, okay. And you know Agoris, you've heard of Agoris, right? So I was sitting in Benares and I found one of the Agoris and I was having a chat to him. So most people are scared of them. You know, they have all this ashes on them, they're not wearing any clothes, their hair's tied up, elderly guy, they're smoking. Okay, nobody talks to them. Has anyone ever spoken to an Agori? No? Exactly. So I went and I sat down with him. And I asked him, what are you doing? Why do you smoke? So he says, various reasons. He says, but one of the things is that smoking curbs my hunger, right? Which means I don't need to eat a lot, so I can sit here and focus. I said, okay. So can you teach me how to focus and how to strengthen my mind? That was a question that I asked him. Please teach me how to do this. So he asked me something very interesting. He says, what's the favorite food? What is your favorite food? So I told him my favorite food is chocolate. And he says, have you ever tried to give it up? So I said, I've tried. I probably get to about 10 days and then I eat something. He says, why do you eat it? I said, because I'm an ultra-marathon runner. I run 100 kilometers a week in training. So I think that anything I eat, my body will burn. Anything and everything. So he says, interesting. So he says, you know, a piece of chocolate has to lie on the table, probably on a plate. Okay, your eyes have to see it. Your hands have to reach out there, pick it up, open that piece and put it in your mouth. He says, if you cannot control something you can see, what chance do you have of controlling something you can't see, which is your mind? So he told me, sometimes we give up things in life because they're good for the body. Sometimes you give something up because it strengthens your mind. Every time you say no to it, your mind becomes stronger and you become stronger as a person. Okay. Now that was such a beautiful lesson that I learned. And this is why I travel around. And I've got tons of stories that I'll tell you. about these people that I meet, about how they position life and how they change the perspective of everything. Someone asked me, how do you teach your athletes to overcome failure? I said, that's an interesting question. How many of us here struggle to overcome failure? Interesting, quite a few. More hands than people who love themselves. So, next question is, what do you think is your success rate? 60%, 70%, 20%, 10%? What do you think? Give me some answers. Okay, let me break it up. How many of us have a success rate or believe our success rate is more than 50%? Fantastic, amazing. So, how many people think it's more than 65%? Amazing. Good. How many people think it's below 50? It's between 50 and 30. 1, 2. So everyone else is above 30. Okay, fantastic. So I have to tell you that you all are way better than my athletes. In fact, not just way better than my athletes. You guys are way better than the best athletes who've ever lived. Do you know Roger Federer? The Wimbledon just finished yesterday. Roger Federer has won 20 Grand Slams. He's played in 75. Okay, so he's got a 26% win ratio. Okay, Virat Kohli has played 66 tests and scored 2100s. Okay, he's got 30%. Okay, if you take that in ODI, he's played probably 220 ODIs and scored 3500s. So it's 16%. The best athletes in the world have the best, I'm talking about the best of the best, have a success rate of about 26 to 29%. And you are sitting above 50. Why do you all have anything to worry about? Huh? Honestly. You know, every single one of you here is a Roger Federer and better than that. But in the world of sport, you accept that failure is a part of the journey. See, let me ask you a different question. I'm going to position it a little bit different. Okay. What is success? Okay. See, if you didn't have success, you wouldn't know what failure is. If you didn't have happiness, you wouldn't know what sadness is. Isn't it? If you didn't have pain, you wouldn't know what comfort is. Okay. So instead of looking at everything so negatively, these things that we look at negatively are actually bring in the yin and yang of life, the balance of life, the balance of energy rests in this here. The reason you are happy 50% of the time, and some of you 65% of the time, is because that 35% exists. It's because you feel the pain and you know what a struggle is. Okay? It's that balance that actually makes victory sweeter. So how do I help my athletes overcome fear of failure? This is what I do. I position in their minds how pertinent that failure is to us enjoying that success and working harder. Because if that didn't exist, this wouldn't exist. Yeah. So, one of the most important things I think that I work on with people is development of self. And Mr. Kaur was saying that, you know, and I'm saying that. If you loved yourself and you cared about yourself, you'd make sure that you put your best foot forward all the time. Okay. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I've seen in the corporate world is compassion, is a lack of compassion. You know. Right? Compassion is not just, what is compassion? See, people misunderstand compassion as love for your colleagues. It's not. It's love for yourself first. It starts here. And then it goes outward to love for everyone else. So, I'm going to talk to you about perspective and focus. Okay. Does anyone know what the difference is? Anyone? Perspective and focus? Okay. So let's use this bottle, for example. Okay. It's here. Okay. So, all of us look at this bottle. This is what we're focusing at. on. This is a point of focus. Okay. Now, if I ask you to describe this bottle of water to me, okay, you would say that it's a clear bottle, the green cap, green label. The label is written probably Bisleri 500. It's got half the water, you'd say that. Now, I would stand on this side and tell you, it's got a green lid, but you're lying. It doesn't say Bisleri 500. It's got a lot of other things on it. It's got packaged water and contains this and manufacturing date and stuff. And you're going to tell me, no, it's got Bisleri 500. Okay. Now, what has happened? The only thing that's happened is we're looking at the same thing from two different points of view. I'm not wrong, and neither are you. Okay. But emotion gets built up because you are not prepared to look at it from my point of view, and I'm not prepared to look at it from your point of view. Okay. And perspective is the foundation of compassion. If we only prepare to look at anything in life from another person's point of view, you'll become infinitely more compassionate as a person. And that will lay the foundation for every single thing as you're moving forward. The foundation for the development of you as a better person. So this is what I do with my athletes. Because compassion, love for yourself is what allows you to push yourself. See, athletes have another amazing thing about themselves, is that every time an athlete wins, he goes back to the drawing board to see how he can make himself better. We have a saying in the world of sport that goes, amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals practice till we can't get it wrong. Okay? That's our saying. No. So we practice till we can't get it wrong, till it becomes habitual. Every single thing becomes a part of who we are, our way of life. Okay? So that's how we develop it. We develop it through compassion, through self-love. Okay? I'll give you another example. Okay. Someone asked me once, and I'll come to some aspects of leadership. Someone asked me, how do you generate, how can I become a more compassionate person? How can I become a more kind person, a more loving person? Okay. How can I do that? So I said, okay, it's a very interesting question. Okay. So if I gave you an orange and I ask you to squeeze it, what will come out of it? What juice? Orange juice. Will I get apple juice out of it? No. Will I get pineapple juice out of it? No. Why am I getting orange juice? Because orange juice is inside, isn't it? And squeezing it is the pressure that we face in the world. We can't do anything about it. Okay. Now, when the world squeezes you and puts you under pressure, what will come out is what's inside. Okay. So, if you want to be a more kind person, a more compassionate person, you've got to fill it inside. Isn't it? You've got to fill it inside. And how do you fill it? See, in the physical world, opposites attract each other, which means that you can buy a BMW 3 Series and you'll aspire to get a 5 Series, or you'll aspire to get an Evoque, or you can buy a 2-bedroom house in Andheri and you'll aspire to move to South Mumbai, or opposites attract. You get attracted to what you don't have. Okay? But in the spiritual world, like attracts like. If you push out compassion, you push out love, you push out kindness, you'll attract those things there. So that's the easiest way to fill what you have. Fill yourself with what you want. I do another nice drill. Let me ask you this question. How would you like to be remembered in 10 years' time? How would you like to be remembered in 10 years' time? Ask yourself this question. Let's just take a few seconds to ask yourself, how would you like to be remembered in 10 years' time? Okay, I'm going to ask for a few thoughts, so please. Fine, a few seconds. So anyone's got some answers for me? Anyone would like to stand up? Tell me. Yes, please.
I would like to be a
Fantastic. Okay, someone else? Anyone else? How would you like to be known? What would you like someone to say about you? Anyone? Nothing. You'd like them to say nothing. You want your actions to speak louder than words. Okay, but you guys are a little shy, but thank you very much, sir. But that is 99% of people, including everyone in this room. How you'd like to be remembered is a good person, isn't it? You'd like someone to remember you for the type of person you are, not the amount of money you have or the car you drive or anything. See, those are things that you can develop and you can work on from now, right from now. And these are the qualities that actually make someone a fantastic leader. Someone asked me, and one of the questions that they wanted me to touch on was, how do we nurture leadership in people? Okay, I went into a talk and someone says, I get really, really disappointed because my team's not able to perform to the best of their ability. So I said, that's interesting. How many of us face that problem? We have a team and the people in our team are not pulling their weight, or they're not managing to deliver what they want to, or things like that. Is that a problem you'll face? Yeah. Do you get disappointed? Get upset? Do you feel that they're pulling the group back? Yeah. As leaders, it's very common. I get asked this question quite often. Okay. And I ask someone, okay, what is actually disappointing you? Yeah. The thing that's disappointing you is that they're not able to deliver. Okay. So what are they not able to deliver against? And they're not able to deliver against your expectation. Correct? It's actually your expectation that leads to disappointment. So then my next question I asked everybody is, how have you evaluated your expectations of that person? I asked this to all leaders. How have you evaluated it? What are the grounds that have made you set your expectations for that person? Have you had a chat to him? Have you spoken? Have you understood his strengths, his weaknesses? What is it? Okay. And if you've got 10 people in a group, all 10 are coming from completely different backgrounds, probably have different experiences, different education. Do you have the same expectations for every single one of them? If you do, then that's where the problem lies. The problem lies in how you set your expectations of people. Okay, and the problem lies that we have the same expectations of everyone we work with. So what do I do? When I go into a corporate, I tell them, try this simple exercise. You can do this when you're at home, something, right? Or if you want to take a few seconds, we can even try it now. Okay, on a piece of paper, on your phone. Okay, just put 3 people who you work with. Right, take your phone out, put the names of 3 people who you work with. Okay, any 3. It could be in the same department, it could be in the office, it could be in whoever it is. 3 people who you work with in a group or in a team. Just put their names down. Okay. Now, we're going to do a very simple exercise. Right, you work with these guys. You know them pretty well. Okay, you interact with them every single day. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 means that they're extremely reliable people. Life and death situation, that's the person you'd phone. Okay, 5 means most often they'll get the work done. Right, you may need to push them. 7 means they'll get it done. You can call them. On the rating scale of 1 to 10, put a number next to those names. How much can you rely on those people? Okay. Now, you've put a number to this, and most likely, firstly, have you put the same number to all 3? No. Numbers are different. Now, the fact that the number is different means that your evaluation of the person is completely different. Your expectation is completely different. So I do this exercise a lot with my team. I put this down and I said, okay, you know what? These are the people who, and this gives me a very, very visual reference of how I'm going to dissipate my work. If something is really important, you know who to give it to. If something, you've got a little bit more time to develop it, you know who to give it to. Now, this helps me manage my own disappointment. And it helps me learn and develop the people in my team as well. So it's such a simple exercise. But the thing is, we don't take the time to assess our team. We don't take the time to nurture our team, to grow, to understand what their strengths, what their weaknesses are. And this is the reason why, we're always facing disappointment. Okay? Disappointment is something that's developed by ourselves. It's an inward trait that comes from letting ourselves down based on what we expect out of each other. And just try this exercise. So the next time you go back, break it up, and we will put all your teammates down, I'm saying teammates because I'm coming from sport, put all your colleagues down, and give them a number. And now try to evaluate them and decide to split your work up that way there. So the one other point that I want to talk about is a term called mindfulness, which is something that you've all heard. And as part of a Rising Stars program or an executive leadership program, I'm sure you've heard it a lot, correct? Right. Have you done any mindful programs or mindfulness programs as part of leadership development? Yeah. What is it? Yeah. What is mindfulness? So the reason I'm saying this is because mindfulness for me is probably one of the most important components to increasing the productivity of you as a person and the productivity of your organization. So you want to know how I unlock a championship attitude in my team? How do I make my team winners? Here's the answer. The answer is very simple. The answer is I make them extremely mindful. Okay? And we train them every single day with every single thing. So, for example, standard rules. If they're watching TV, they don't look at their phone. If they pick up their phone to make a call, I make them switch the TV off. If they're eating food, they don't eat it in front of the TV. Okay. If they're talking to someone, they don't look at their phone. Mindfulness is the ability to focus on a particular task at the time so that all your attention is going into that. Okay. Because the biggest problem that we will have in life is not that we can't do anything, is that our focus keeps shifting. And it shifts so much and it's so erratic that at the end of an 8-hour day, we've achieved nothing. Okay. You've been there, you've physically been there, you spent all the time, you've had the papers, you've looked at it, you've sent, but you've achieved nothing. Why? How many of us have actually get to the afternoon and you can't believe where the time's gone and you feel like you've hardly done anything today? Many of us are in that situation. I know this. People are laughing because it's true. The reason it's happening is because we're not mindful about what we want to do. Okay? If you can inculcate this here, you'll narrow your focus down. So with my athletes, when I'm trying to get the best out of someone, see, in the world of sport, I'll give you one example to highlight this. In the last 10 Olympics, the difference between 1 and 4 in the 100-meter final has been 0.5%. Okay? And 0.5% is 300ths of a second. 300ths of a second. The difference between 1 and 4. Now, if you blink your eye one time, everyone blink your eye one time, that blink is 300ths of a second or longer, sometimes 400ths of a second. Which means if you blink at the wrong time, 4 people have gone past the finish line. Okay. That is what the margin for error is. That's how small it is in the world of sport. 0.5%. Okay. Now, when you're training someone to become the best in a field where the margin for error is so small, the only way you can get them to do that is by having single-minded focus. And you know what's even more astonishing? That the athlete who comes out 1 would probably earn about $50 million a year. The athlete who comes out 3, which is 300ths of a second slower, 300ths of a second slower, will earn $2 million. 50 versus 2. I want that to sink in. Do you know what this is equivalent to? If you're doing maths and you're in accounting, it's the equivalent of getting not just one number wrong, probably the third decimal of a number wrong, and someone is taking away 95% of your income. The third decimal